One plant produces 20 pounds of nutrient-dense leaves every single year. 25 plants covering less space than a parking spot generate over 600 pounds annually. Plant it once and harvest for the next 40 years without replanting, fertilizing, or barely any maintenance at all. During World War II, this crop kept livestock alive when imported feed disappeared. It fed desperate families when rations fell short. It healed wounds when medical supplies ran out. Governments actively promoted its cultivation as a patriotic duty. Then something changed. By 2001, the FDA banned it for internal consumption. Health food stores pulled it from shelves. A plant humans used safely for over 2,000 years suddenly became too dangerous to swallow. The plant is Comfrey. And the story of how a wartime superfood became a restricted substance raises questions that government agencies prefer you never ask. Number 1. The plant that refuses to die. Comfrey sends roots 10 feet straight down into soil layers that nothing else can reach. This taproot system pulls up potassium, calcium, phosphorus, and trace minerals that surface plants never access. The leaves become concentrated packages of nutrients gathered from depths where other roots cannot travel. Cut the plant to the ground, and it regrows completely within 6 weeks. Cut it again, and the same thing happens. 4 to 5 complete harvests occur every growing season, each one producing 4 to 5 pounds of fresh leaves per plant. The mathematics creates staggering annual yields from minimal space. Ancient Greeks documented Comfrey 2,000 years ago. The name symphytum comes from Greek words meaning to unite or grow together, describing the plant's legendary ability to heal wounds and mend broken bones. Roman soldiers carried Comfrey to treat battlefield injuries. Medieval monasteries cultivated it as essential medicine. Herbalists across Europe prescribed it for centuries without documented epidemics of harm. The protein content rivals alfalfa when leaves dry. All essential amino acids exist within the tissue. Vitamins A and C concentrate in the foliage. The allantoin compound that Comfrey produces became a standard ingredient in modern skincare products. Extracted from the same plant, the FDA later deemed too dangerous to consume. Perennial nature means planting happens once. Unlike annual crops demanding yearly soil preparation, seeding, and establishment, Comfrey emerges each spring ready to produce. 40-year lifespans from single plantings are documented and common. The investment of planting pays dividends for decades without additional input. Lawrence Hills, the English horticulturist who spent his career studying Comfrey, developed the Bocking 14 variety specifically for maximum production. This sterile hybrid produces no seeds, spreading only when humans deliberately transplant root cuttings. Hills believed Comfrey could solve world hunger through its unmatched yield potential. His research organization still promotes organic gardening today using principles he developed around this one remarkable plant. Number 2. Comfrey goes to war. German submarines strangled. Britain's food supply during World War II, imported grain for livestock, disappeared. Animal protein that fed the nation faced collapse. The Ministry of Agriculture searched desperately for alternatives that could sustain farming through the blockade. Comfrey emerged as a solution because it required nothing the war effort needed elsewhere. No imported seed, no fertilizer diverted from explosives production, no fuel-hungry machinery for cultivation. Existing plants spread through root division, multiplying freely across the landscape without supply chain dependencies. Rabbit production expanded dramatically during rationing years. Backyard rabbit hutches converted kitchen scraps into protein, and Comfrey leaves provided the bulk feed that made rabbit keeping sustainable. Chickens, pigs, and goats received Comfrey supplementation that stretched limited grain supplies. The plant asked nothing and gave continuously throughout each growing season. Human consumption increased during the most desperate periods. Young Comfrey leaves entered soups and stews as spinach substitutes. The taste fell short of pleasant, but calories and nutrients mattered more than culinary satisfaction when alternative food simply did not exist. Medical applications multiplied as pharmaceutical supplies tightened. Poultices made from crushed Comfrey leaves treated wounds, burns, sprains, and fractures. Traditional knowledge passed through generations suddenly became practical necessity. Doctors who would normally prescribe manufactured medications found themselves recommending garden remedies, because gardens still produced while factories diverted production to war materials. The Henry Doubleday Research Association formed after the war to continue studying comfrey and organic cultivation methods. Henry Doubleday himself had imported Russian comfrey to England in the 1870s, believing the plant could transform agriculture. The wartime experience validated his vision. Comfrey had proven itself under the harshest possible conditions, sustaining life when industrial systems failed completely. Number 3. The compounds they found. Every plant produces chemicals for defense, growth, and reproduction. Many of these compounds affect animals that consume them. Caffeine, nicotine, and capsaicin all represent plant chemicals with significant physiological effects. The difference between medicine and poison often comes down to dose rather than presence. Comfrey contains pyrrolizidine alkaloids, compounds found in approximately 3% of all flowering plant species. Certain pyrrolizidine alkaloids cause liver damage when the liver metabolizes them into toxic forms called pyrroles. These pyrroles damage liver cells cumulatively, meaning repeated exposure adds to previous damage. Japanese researchers published studies in 1978 feeding rats diets containing 8% dried comfrey leaves. The rats developed liver tumors. This study became foundational evidence for regulatory action, despite the dose representing consumption levels no human would realistically achieve. 8% of total diet as comfrey would mean eating pounds of leaves daily for an extended period. Australian researchers analyzed different comfrey varieties and documented varying alkaloid concentrations. Russian comfrey contained more pyrrolizidine alkaloids than common comfrey. Roots contained more than leaves. Young leaves contained more than mature leaves. The plant's toxicity profile varied dramatically depending on species, plant part, and growing conditions. Fewer than 10 documented human cases of liver damage associated with comfrey consumption exist in worldwide medical literature. Most cases involved either extremely high consumption, concentrated supplement products, or pre-existing liver conditions. One death attributed to comfrey involved a woman who consumed leaves daily for an extended period, a pattern of use far outside traditional practice. Traditional preparation methods may reduce alkaloid exposure significantly. Cooking potentially breaks down some compounds. Occasional consumption differs dramatically from daily supplementation. The distinction between eating comfrey leaves in soup during wartime scarcity and taking concentrated comfrey capsules daily for years escaped regulatory analysis that treated all exposure identically. Number 4. The FDA takes action. The FDA issued initial warning letters about comfrey in 1984. These warnings recommended against internal use but imposed no formal prohibition. Health food stores continued selling comfrey tea, capsules, and tinctures for another 17 years. July 2001 brought the formal ban. FDA sent letters to manufacturers requesting removal of all comfrey products intended for internal consumption from the marketplace. The agency cited hepatotoxicity risk based on pyrrolizidine alkaloid content. Comfrey tea disappeared from store shelves. Capsules and tablets vanished from supplement sections. A plant used internally for over 2,000 years became officially too dangerous to swallow. The ban applied specifically to internal consumption. External comfrey products remained legal and still line store shelves today. Salves, ointments, creams, and oils containing comfrey continue selling without restriction. This distinction creates logical inconsistency that critics immediately identified. Skin absorbs compounds from topical applications. If pyrrolizidine alkaloids pose genuine systemic danger, external products would logically face restriction alongside internal products. The selective ban suggested concern about something other than alkaloid exposure alone. Cultivation remains completely legal. Growing comfrey in your garden violates no law. Selling comfrey plants at nurseries continues without restriction. Using comfrey as animal feed for your own livestock requires no permit. Making comfrey fertilizer tea for your garden faces no regulation whatsoever. The prohibition targets only commercial sale for internal human consumption. Personal choice about what you grow and consume on your own property technically remains unaffected. Though the regulatory message clearly discourages any internal use, pharmaceutical industry analysts noted that comfrey competed with patented wound-healing medications and bone health supplements. Natural remedies growing freely in gardens generate no prescription revenue. The timing of regulatory action coincided with increased marketing of competing pharmaceutical products. Number 5. The conspiracy question. Pharmaceutical revenue depends on sick people buying treatments. Plants that heal without prescription threaten that revenue model fundamentally. This reality forms the foundation of conspiracy theories surrounding Comfrey's regulatory fate. Comfrey worked for wound healing. Modern research confirms allantoin promotes cell proliferation and tissue regeneration. The compound appears in commercial skincare products because manufacturers recognize its effectiveness. Patented medications for wound treatment generated substantial revenue that free garden plants undermined. Comfrey worked for bone and joint problems. Traditional use for sprains, fractures, and arthritis spanned centuries. German Commission E approved external Comfrey for musculoskeletal conditions based on scientific evidence. Products addressing these conditions generate billions in pharmaceutical sales annually. The small number of documented human cases compared to widespread traditional use creates statistical anomaly. Millions of people consumed Comfrey across centuries. Fewer than 10 documented cases of harm emerged worldwide. This safety record exceeds many substances that remain completely legal and actively marketed. Concentrated supplements differ dramatically from traditional food use. Traditional preparation involved occasional leaves in cooking, brief tea infusions, or topical applications. Modern supplement industry concentrated plant compounds into capsules consumed daily. Dose makes the poison, and supplement industry extraction created doses that traditional use never approached. Regulatory agencies faced pressure from multiple directions. Genuine concern about cumulative alkaloid exposure motivated some officials. Industry pressure to eliminate natural competition influenced others. Media coverage of isolated cases created public concern demanding response. The resulting action may have reflected compromise between legitimate safety concerns and illegitimate commercial interests. The truth likely falls between pure conspiracy and pure public protection. Pyrrolizidine alkaloids do cause liver damage at sufficient doses. Concentrated supplements did create exposure levels that traditional use never produced. Regulatory action was neither completely unjustified nor completely honest about all motivating factors. Individuals must evaluate evidence and make personal decisions about what risks they accept. The FDA decision removed that choice from the marketplace, while leaving cultivation and personal use technically unaffected. Number 6. What remains legal today? Comfrey grows legally in every state without permit, registration, or oversight. Nurseries sell plants openly. Seed catalogs offer varieties. Garden centers stock root cuttings. The ban applies to commercial sale for internal consumption, not cultivation itself. Fertilizer production represents the most popular legal use today. Comfrey leaves, stuffed into buckets and covered with water, decompose over 4 to 6 weeks into concentrated liquid fertilizer. The resulting tea, diluted 10-to-1 with water, provides potassium levels exceeding commercial fertilizer products. Tomatoes, peppers, and fruiting vegetables thrive with Comfrey tea applications. Chop and drop mulching places cut Comfrey leaves directly on garden soil around other plants. The leaves decompose quickly, releasing nutrients directly into root zones. Weed suppression and moisture retention accompany the fertility boost. Free fertilizer from plants that regenerate continuously eliminates purchased inputs entirely. Compost activation accelerates decomposition in compost piles. High nitrogen content in Comfrey leaves heats piles rapidly and breaks down carbon-heavy materials that would otherwise decompose slowly. Adding Comfrey to compost improves both speed and finished product quality. Animal feed provides another completely legal application. Rabbits consume Comfrey leaves readily with documented health and growth benefits. Chickens pick at offered leaves. Pigs relish Comfrey mixed with other feed. Goats browse standing plants enthusiastically. Home livestock operations reduce feed costs significantly through Comfrey cultivation. External medicinal products remain legal for sale and clearly legal for personal preparation. Infused oils made by steeping Comfrey leaves in carrier oils provide base for homemade salves. Commercial salves and ointments address the same conditions that traditional use targeted for centuries. The Bocking 14 variety deserves specific recommendation because its sterility prevents unwanted spreading. Common Comfrey produces seeds and can become invasive. Bocking 14 spreads only through deliberate root division, giving gardeners complete control over plant locations. This variety also provides highest yields among cultivated types. 10 plants occupy 30 square feet and produce 200 pounds of material annually. The space equivalent of a small parking spot provides unlimited fertilizer, animal feed, supplement, and raw material for external preparations. Number 7. Growing your own comfrey root cuttings establish faster and more reliably than seeds. And Bocking 14 produces no seeds anyway. Purchase root sections from reputable nurseries specializing in permaculture or organic gardening plants. 2 to 3 inch root pieces planted horizontally about 2 inches deep establish readily in spring or fall. Space plants 3 feet apart in any direction. The mature plants reach that width and benefit from air circulation between specimens. Full sun produces maximum growth, though partial shade yields acceptable harvests. Soil quality matters less than with most crops because those 10-foot taproots access nutrients that surface conditions cannot predict. Water newly planted root cuttings until establishment occurs over the first growing season. After that initial period, comfrey survives drought through root depth that reaches moisture when surface soil dries completely. Irrigation increases yields, but is not required for plant survival. Harvest begins in the second year after planting. Cut all leaves about 2 inches above ground level. The crown regenerates completely within 4 to 6 weeks. Repeat harvesting 4 to 5 times per growing season, stopping about 6 weeks before first frost to allow root reserves to rebuild for winter. Yields increase over the first 3 to 4 years as root systems mature. 20 pounds per plant per year represents reasonable expectation from established specimens. Peak productivity continues for decades, with minimal decline over time. Removal proves difficult because any root fragment regenerates a new plant. Choose planting locations carefully as permanent installations. Raised beds or areas bounded by hardscape prevent unwanted spread. Root barriers buried 18 inches deep can contain plants in specific zones. Avoid planting where you might want to grow something else in coming years. Comfrey establishes permanent residence once planted. This permanence represents either tremendous advantage or significant liability depending on planting quality. A plant that fed wartime Britain, healed battlefield wounds, and sustained livestock through blockade conditions became too dangerous to sell for human consumption in 2001. Fewer than 10 documented cases worldwide justified removing a remedy used safely for over 2,000 years. The pyrrolizidine alkaloid concern deserves acknowledgement. Liver damage can occur from excessive consumption. Concentrated supplements created exposure levels that traditional use never approached. Regulatory caution about cumulative toxicity reflects genuine, if debatable, scientific concern. The conspiracy question deserves acknowledgement to selective enforcement. Targeting comfrey while ignoring other pyrrolizidine and containing plants suggests motivations beyond pure safety. Timing coinciding with pharmaceutical marketing raises reasonable suspicion. Disproportionate response compared to far more dangerous legal substances invites skepticism. What remains clear is that comfrey grows legally, produces extraordinarily, and serves multiple documented purposes that require no internal consumption whatsoever. Fertilizer, animal feed, compost activation, and external preparations all remain completely lawful. The 600 pounds from a parking spot-size planting provides unlimited garden fertility, supplemental livestock feed, and raw materials for traditional external remedies. Plant once, harvest for 40 years. And draw your own conclusions about why something this useful faced restrictions at all.